The other day, I finally got the chance to watch Jason Reitman's newest film, Saturday Night. This is a film that I've been trying to watch for months now. I missed it at London Film Festival, I missed it when it hit UK cinemas at the back end of January, and now I've only finally got the chance to see it now that it's hit digital platforms. Now, considering that this is a film that I've been trying to watch for quite a while now, I can thankfully say that I was not disappointed and that I loved every single thing about this movie. And I know what you're probably thinking, what's the point on doing a video that's already been out for quite a while now? And to that I say, I don't care. This is my channel, so I get to make videos about any films that I want. And I loved this film so much that I just wanted to do a video talking about why it's so brilliant. Now, for those of you that don't know, this film basically recounts and dramatises the 90 minutes that led up to the broadcast of the first ever episode of Saturday Night Live back in October 1975. Now, my history with Saturday Night Live is a bit of an interesting one because over in the UK, we don't really get Saturday Night Live broadcast in this country, so we only get drip-fed certain bits and pieces of it through social media and things that become part of the pop culture zeitgeist. That is how we mostly kind of consume the show over here. However, during my early teens, there was one aspect of the show that became hugely successful outside of the core show itself, which was everything to do with The Lonely Island, whether it be their music videos or their sketches. That was kind of my entering point for Saturday Night Live. I loved everything that they were doing, and that kind of shaped my sense of humour as a teenager. And it was through that that I then discovered the history of Saturday Night Live, and over the years have come to appreciate a lot of the aspects, old and new, that the show tries to do. And the fact that the show is still going 50 years later is a bit of a testament in terms of how groundbreaking, but also how tried and tested this formula is. So going into this film, I knew a little bit in terms of the history of Saturday Night Live and obviously who certain people were, like Lorne Michaels, Chevy Chase, Dan Aykroyd, George Carlin. I knew who specific people were, but I wasn't 100% au fait with the specific events that occurred on the night of the show's first broadcast, which is what I wanted this film to kind of educate me in, exactly what happened and how it all played out and just how tense all of this situation was. And thankfully, this film does that in an incredibly engaging and entertaining way. Obviously, a few things throughout the film have been heightened for the sake of comedy or drama, and you can kind of see that in the way that the film is written and the way that the film is paced. But I think it works, and it does a very good job of heightening the tension and the chaotic nature of everything going on. This film is one of the most deliberately suspenseful and chaotic films I've seen in quite a long time, but it really works. This film never fully leans into the comedy, but it never fully leans into the drama, and it just kind of perfectly balances both of those aspects on a very tight wire act, whilst also being paced incredibly tightly. The two aspects of this film that I probably have to commend the most are the writing and the editing. The edit for this film is so incredibly tight, but is also incredibly energetic and frantic at the same time. I would not want this film to be edited any other way, and I genuinely love how claustrophobic everything feels. Again, it does a very good job of finding ways to mesh the comedy with the drama, but also has some genuinely intense and suspenseful scenes that kind of come out of nowhere, but just add to the intensity of everything going on. And this is where the writing really comes into its own, because it also does a very good job of combining all of these elements together at the same time, but also knows how to find a few core moments, whether they be small or big, to just slow everything down, focus on a specific moment or conversation that's either dramatic or comedic, and then very gradually bring that intensity back up so we can then be thrown back into the chaos of it all again. The writing and just the film as a whole also does a very good job of understanding who each character is and where their position is in terms of everything going on, whether that be in terms of the power that they have, where they fit in the hierarchy, but also in terms of where their supposed importance is in the proceedings of trying to get this first episode of Saturday Night Live through the door. And this is where the performances come in. The cast across the board are incredible. Every person in this film is doing a very good job of embodying the traits and characteristics of the person that they are trying to play without necessarily doing a straight up impression of that person. It's a very fine line to ride, and almost every single person in this film does a brilliant job of getting that across. For example, two of my favourite performances in the entire film are Corey Michael Smith as Chevy Chase and Dylan O'Brien as Dan Aykroyd. Both of these actors are doing brilliant jobs at, again, embodying the characteristics and traits of these two cast members, but never go further to the point of parody or impression. They manage to find all these unique little mannerisms within the way that they speak, or the way that they act. And again, it never feels like they're going overboard, and they work perfectly as a unit, but also perfectly on their own as well. There are just so many things I love about this film. I could go on for days about it. I love the way Jason Reitman directs this film. I love the fact that he chose to shoot it on film, so it feels like a film from the 70s, as well as being set in the 70s as well. I thought that was a really good choice. I love the camera work of this film because it's very kinetic and energetic and very much in the actors' faces a lot of the time, which works because of the chaotic nature of it all. I also really liked Jon Batiste's score for this film. There's samba elements, there's jazz elements, there's a little bit of everything in there, which first of all complements Saturday Night Live as a whole, because the main theme of Saturday Night Live and the band that is always there in every episode is very jazz focused. So it kind of feels like they're paying homage in that sense. But again, those jazz and samba elements also add a bit of unpredictability and chaoticness to the proceedings, which again is just another added element to everything else, making it an incredibly tense experience. There's also two aspects of this film that kind of creep up on you as the film's going on that I also really appreciated. The first of those being that you really get a clear sense that they were taking a huge risk with something like this, because before Saturday Night Live, this sort of show never really existed before. And there's many times throughout the film where people ask Lorne Michaels, what exactly is it we're making here? And even he can't quite answer that. And the way that the film chooses to find different ways to really put the pressure on Lorne Michaels in this film, in terms of it coming down to the wire, whether they'll actually go on air or not, and whether he can actually justify what it is they're making, I thought was really well done. And again, that comes down to both the performances and the writing. Another aspect that I really appreciated about this film is that amongst all the chaos, amongst all the drama and people trying to bite each other's head off at points, the film never forgets on multiple occasions to remind you of the reason that we're here in the first place and the reason that this film is being made. There are a couple of points throughout the film where we see rehearsals of sketches that are now iconic and famous in the history of Saturday Night Live and just comedy in general. And the fact that the show occasionally stops to show you these things obviously is par of the course, considering they're rehearsing for the show that they're about to put on. But also, like I just said, it reminds the audience of why we're here in the first place and how much of a legacy this show has left behind in a way that kind of feels very natural. And again, it kind of pulls back the curtain to see these sketches in a way that we've never seen them before. For example, we see a rehearsal of the now iconic Wolverines sketch, which opens the very first episode of the show. We see a rough version of Weekend Update, as well as a few other sketches that are now synonymous with Saturday Night Live. Everything from the writing to the directing to the cast and even the edit, in my opinion, is perfect. This film knows what it is and sticks to it and just does that one singular thing very well. Everything in this film is brilliantly well realised. It feels like you're kind of transported back to 1975 New York whilst you're watching the film. And I wouldn't want it any other way. This film is hilarious when it needs to be, it's emotional when it needs to be, and it's also incredibly hectic for about 95% of its runtime. I loved everything it tried to do. Whether you're a fan of Saturday Night Live or not, I feel like there is something you can take away from this film and still find some enjoyment with it. And it's just really well made. If you've seen the film Saturday Night, then let me know what you think about it in the comments below. Remember to like and subscribe, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye.